Well, how about you start with where your parents were from? Were they from Hawaii or were they born in
No, I
Japan?
was born in Japan.
Yeah. How long had they been living in Hawaii when you were born?
I have no idea.
Really? No idea of when they came over there?
No.
How old were your parents at that time when you were born?
I have no idea.
What had they, do you know how they decided to come to Hawaii?
No.
Was it for work?
Probably.
What were they doing for a living at the time that they moved there?
I don't know.
Do you know what work they were doing when you were born?
No.
Were they involved in, I don't know, shipping or? Were they involved in anything that was like specific to Hawaii, like shipping or something like that?
I don't know anything like that.
But both of your parents were born in Japan, then.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did your parents do when you were growing up? What was their work?
He worked in the sugar mills in Hawaii.
The what mills?
Sugar
Mills.
cane,
Okay.
yeah. And he was the foreman of a group at mechanical engineering.
Oh yeah. Where did he study engineering in Japan?
Huh?
Did he study engineering in Japan?
No. Just by learning.
Do you have any idea how much money he made in the mills?
No.
So then, was your mother working or was she at home?
No, she was at home.
She was at home. Now your siblings. How many siblings did you have?
3.
Where were you in the order of
Middle.
who was born? Yeah. You give your first language as being English, and you spoke English at home. Could you talk about how that came to be? Why your parents wanted you to be speaking English at home rather than Japanese?
I don't know.
Did you ever talk about that with them?
No.
Do you think it could have had something to do with trying to make you feel more American?
No.
It was just the practical thing to do, maybe?
Yeah. See, in Hawaii, you didn't have that feeling, you know. I mean, everything was so nice and equal.
Yeah.
That you didn't have to worry about anything. No prejudice or anything.
And you feel like that was different from the mainland?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because after I graduated from high school, I went to the Midwest to go to college.
Right.
to Simpson College in Indian, Ohio. Then war broke out when I was in college.
Right.
Then, I got into a little trouble then. Because people called me a Jap and all that.
Yeah.
But then I went into the army from there. Then went to North Africa, Italy, France, Germany for 2.5 years, and I got injured twice then during that time.
I mean, I really do want to get back to that soon, but I first wanted to ask you if that was the first time when the war broke out, if that was the first time when you really felt like people had been prejudiced against you.
Yeah.
And was it sort of like a sudden switch over like that?
Yeah, you can go to that. Because this was a college town, and everybody was pretty nice, except you had some troublemakers. And I got into a fight with one of the guys. I don't know what his name is anymore, but he called me a Jap, and so we had a fight at the college campus.
Really? Who won?
I did.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to fool with me because they knew that I could fight, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't have a bad time at all.
Do you think you wanted more to fight him just so that you could get everybody off your back?
I didn't want to fight. While in high school, I trained to be a boxer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I was a flyweight. So I fought in a lot of amateur contests then.
Really?
While in high school.
Huh.
So I wasn't worried about taking care of myself at all.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you keep going with any of that in college?
Huh?
Did you keep going with any of the boxing in college?
No. No.
What did your family do to keep connected to your Japanese heritage when you were growing up?
Not very much.
Yeah?
No. We didn't have any kind of tie with any Japanese organization.
Yeah.
We belonged to a Christian church. And I went to Japanese language school for 12 years.
Oh, okay.
You know, while they go to regular school till the afternoon, and I went to the Japanese school for 12 years. So I was pretty good in Japanese also. So when the war broke out, I took an examination to see if I could be a translator.
Oh, yeah.
And I passed the test real well. So they wanted to know if I would volunteer for that service. And I said, no, I don't want anything to do with the Pacific.
Yeah.
Because my brother was in the Pacific Theater. And I went to the European
Right.
Theater.
Was your brother doing that kind of translation work?
Huh?
Or was your brother doing that kind of translation work or intelligence or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, I don't know what outfit he was with, but he was in China.
Yeah.
So he was a good interpreter.
So it was only the two of you out of your family who were
With the
in
service,
the
yeah.
service. Did you have any younger brothers?
No.
When you were growing up, did you think of yourself as I mean, did you think of any sort of specific labels for yourself, like American or Japanese or
No.
Japanese American or something?
No.
Yeah. It's been interesting.
Not in Hawaii anyhow.
Yeah, of course, in Hawaii. It's been interesting doing these interviews because I've talked to several people who have said that they didn't really give much thought when they were growing up to whether or not like the term American really applied to them specifically or not.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like they were saying they weren't, but they weren't thinking about it in that way, and I think that's probably true of most people, that they don't really think about it in those terms like that. You don't think about
No.
what word to like define yourself with. Now, were you at all interested in biology or medicine when you were growing up in Hawaii?
Doing what?
When you were growing up, were you interested already in biology or medicine?
Yeah.
Were you good with those in school?
Hmm?
Were you good with those in school? Biology and things like that?
Then I majored in biochemistry.
Right. Yeah.
So I worked on bachelor's, master's, and PhD on that level. But I got a job before I got my PhD, so I just didn't go back to get my PhD. I just went on because they accepted me at that level. Because I had taken all the examinations and passed for all my PhD requirements.
Yeah.
German, French, and in biochemistry.
Yeah.
So I had a job as a laboratory director. So I took that.
This was with LabCorp already?
No, this was a hospital.
Okay.
Then I went with LabCorp.
Which hospital was it?
Oh, the first hospital was in Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, this is not yet in Houston. This isn't even a much earlier time frame. Okay. Well, I'll get to that later. Were many of your family's friends Japanese when you were growing up
Yeah.
in Hawaii? Do you think you saw any differences in how the first generation from Japan lived compared to people who were born in the States like you?
Yeah.
What kind of differences did you see there?
Well, mainly in the language. The first generation people spoke more Japanese than English.
Yeah.
And, of course, we spoke Japanese because we had to, but then most of the time our conversation was in English, not in Japanese.
Right.
So, I mean, we lived more as an American than we did as a Japanese.
What else did that mean besides the language to to be living more as an American than as a Japanese?
Well, the food and everything was more American than Japanese. So life on the whole was an ordinary American way of life. There was no Japanese included in our everyday living.
Yeah. Okay. How did you choose Simpson College to go to?
Oh, I had a scholarship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that for biochemistry or just sort of a general?
Just a general
Yeah.
scholarship.
What was it? What was the application process like for scholarships like that? How did you?
Well,
how
I
did
had
you
to
get it?
take a examination. I don't know what the examination was called, but I had to take an examination, and you had to pass with a certain mark.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it was, but I passed it anyhow. So I didn't have any problem being admitted to any college at that time. Because I was also accepted in the University of Hawaii, University of Iowa, and Simpson College. But Simpson College gave me the best scholarship, so I took Simpson.
It's a good reason. How different did Iowa feel from Hawaii? Where did it feel different for you?
Well, the only difference was the weather.
Yeah, that would be big.
Yeah, you know, you have winter over there, whereas in Hawaii you don't have any. It's the same all year round.
Right.
So that was the first thing I had to get accustomed to, was the weather. Otherwise, I wouldn't say there was that much difference.
Yeah.
No.
Do you have any memory of how much college cost for you at that time?
Hmm?
Do you have any memory of how much it cost
Yeah.
college at that time? Did you work at all while you were in college to make some extra money or anything
Yeah.
like that?
I worked as a lifeguard.
I saw you had that you'd done that back in Hawaii when you
Yeah.
were 16, I guess.
I was
And you kept up with that in college?
I was a certified lifeguard when I was in high school. And so when I went to college, they had a swimming pool. They needed a lifeguard. So I applied for the position and got it. I don't know what I was paid then, but then in the summer I had a job as a lifeguard at a lake here. So that's the only kind of job I did while I was in college.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever go back to Hawaii while you were in college?
Yeah,
For like holidays or something like
just for the summer.
that? Okay.
Yeah, just for the summer. And I had a sister in Chicago,
Okay.
so my holidays, instead of going back to Hawaii, I was spent in Chicago instead of staying at a school.
Yeah. Well, that's great. What was she doing in Chicago?
Oh, she was a social worker.
Okay. Did you start on your major in college before he went into the service?
No. I didn't graduate when I went into the service. I had one more year yet.
Right. Yeah.
But then I went into service. Infantry.
Yeah. Do you remember hearing about Pearl Harbor and
No.
what that was like?
No, because I was in the Midwest. I knew about Pearl Harbor, but I didn't know anything that actually happened. So it was a surprise to me, just to anyone else.
Did you talk to your family who was still in Hawaii at all about what they had seen, what had happened?
No.
Now, how much, when you were in school, how much were you aware of like the martial law situation in Hawaii?
I didn't know anything about it.
Did you ever talk to your family much in
No.
that period of time?
No. Dad never told me anything about it.
And you never
asked.
And you never heard anything in the news or anything like that?
No.
Wow. How much were you aware of the internment camps? And how much were you aware of the internment camps and what was going on with those?
I didn't know anything about it while I was in college.
Yeah.
But then, after the war, then I heard about it. Because my wife was in an internment camp.
Right.
Yeah. But otherwise, I didn't know anything about it.
Did you know other guys in college who were drafted while you were still there?
No. I didn't know anybody when I went into the service.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily mean anybody that you like saw later. I just mean like, were there other people who were also Simpson students that
No.
you saw getting drafted? Now you would have volunteered for the 442nd, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you make the decision to do that?
Oh, I don't know. It's in 1943.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do with me because I didn't want to go into the intelligence service in the Pacific. Because I knew my brother was in there and I didn't want any part of it. So they didn't know what to do with me.
Yeah.
But then just at the same time, they were forming the 442nd, so they shipped me down from Iowa to Mississippi. So then I joined the 442nd there.
Yeah. So you would have gone into training in like the fall of 43,
Yeah.
something like that. What was training like?
Regular basic training, nothing special.
What was it like to be around so many other people who had all volunteered for this same, huge thing?
Nothing strange.
You guys were all very used to the idea very early on?
No.
Do you have any idea how much money you were making as a soldier that time?
No. Maybe $50 a month.
No, you would have gone to North Africa next to like stage for Italy, right?
Yeah.
How did you feel as you were going over there?
No different. All I know is that I was going into war. That was it.
What did you think it was going to mean to go into
I
war?
had no idea.
Do you think anybody you were with did? Or was it
No.
a lot of people who sort of didn't really know what was coming?
We just didn't give a damn.
Yeah.
Most of us just do things no matter what happened. You know, we just went along with it. Yeah, we were scared because we knew that we could get killed in a war, and aside from that, we didn't have any thought.
It's interesting because you would have had to be incredibly bold and motivated to volunteer for this.
Well,
But then
I wouldn't say.
after that, you just sort of
Yeah,
quickly get into the flow of it, and
that's
it
right.
just sort of starts to happen. What was the first combat that you were involved in?
I don't know. Was in Italy.
Yeah. Would that have been Naples, maybe?
Huh?
Would that have been Naples, maybe?
No, it's above Naples. Anzio.
Anzio. What do you remember from that?
Nothing much. Combat. All you worried about was, I hope I don't get killed.
No.
Every day, that's all you thought about. And you followed orders and went on from one combat to another combat. And we fought all the way up to Rome. Then we got pulled off. Then I got injured for the first time in the battle up there in North Italy. And then after spending about 3 months in the hospital, I was sent right back to the same regiment again and fought again in Italy. Then we went to southern France and fought in France. Oh, I don't know how long. Then from France, we went back again to Italy. Then I got wounded again the second time. And that's when I said to myself, I said, boy, if this war doesn't end, I'm not going to be able to make it, you know. Because I was wounded twice then. But, I guess a couple of months after that, the war ended, so I was all right.
What was it like to be in the hospital for 3 months?
Nothing unusual. More boring than anything else.
Yeah.
You can't do anything.
So it was frustrating to
Yeah.
be held back like that. When you were in the hospital for the first time there, did you want to get back to the front, or were you more glad to be away from it, even if it was boring and
Well,
kept you in one place?
but I want to be with my buddies
Yeah,
more than anything else,
yeah,
instead of being in the hospital. But I didn't think about anything else.
yeah.
I didn't want to be a hero or anything.
Yeah. Do you think you knew guys who did? Guys who went over there wanting to be heroes and thinking that was what they were going to do?
No. A lot of them became heroes. But they became heroes because they were just there when something happened.
Yeah.
Not because they wanted to be.
Yeah. It seems like soldiers say this a lot. It seems to me like soldiers say this a lot, that when you are in the position of doing something heroic, it's almost not even something you could have tried to bring about. It was
That's
just
right.
it was just the
It's
timing
like it
and the
just
place.
happens. It's just like it just happens, but you were the one that was there at that time.
Yeah.
More chance than anything else. Something that you have to do at that particular time.
Yeah.
Therefore, they made you a hero.
When you went to France, you would have been in the Vosges eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a big change in terrain and everything from Italy. What was that? What was that like? The change and what was going on?
Well, it was in the winter,
Yeah.
and
This is like the beginning of 44.
we fought in
45.
forests before, but not like the forest that was in France.
Yeah.
Everything was wooded, big trees and everything. When we got in there, nothing was scratched through. You couldn't see any marks of a battle. But when we left there, all the trees around you were shattered, So you know that you got shelled like hell. And this is about all I can remember.
Do you remember being involved with the Lost Battalion?
Yeah. We didn't do that much. When we fought, we were on one side. When the 3rd Battalion went in to rescue the battalion itself, we were just a support. So we actually didn't take direct part in the rescue of the battalion.
Yeah.
We were just around there helping. I mean, yeah, we were part of the savings plan, but I mean, we didn't get to see the actual prisoners.
Right. And you would have probably not taken the brunt of the fire then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you say you were pulled back to Italy eventually, so you weren't part of the group that went into Germany itself.
No.
Yeah.
No, went back to Italy.
Yeah.
Never made it to Germany.
How long did you stay over there when the war ended?
Hmm?
How long did you stay over there when the war ended? How long did it take you to get home?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, was that a matter of weeks, or was it
Yeah,
maybe
probably
months?
I don't know exactly how long it took, but it didn't matter at that time anyhow. The war was over.
Yeah.
It was just getting out.
Were you still in the hospital after the second time you were wounded when the war ended?
What? Was I in the hospital?
Yeah, you were wounded a second time in Italy.
Yeah.
Were you out of the hospital before the war ended?
Yeah.
Yeah. So where would you have been when it did
No,
end?
I went back to the outfit, and I don't know how long after that, then the war was over. But we were still in combat when the war ended.
Yeah. Was this around the Gothic line then? Was this around the Gothic line then?
The what?
The Gothic line?
The what?
The Gothic line?
I don't know. Dotted line.
There was a German defensive position in Italy, the Gothic line.
Oh, I don't remember.
I read that that after France, the 442nd was involved with that.
I don't remember that. In fact, I don't remember most of the places we were until I read the history. Oh, this is so and so. Oh, yeah, I was there, but I didn't remember that place.
Yeah. Well, let's look at some of these. I wanted to ask about some of this. So these were all taken. So these were taken with your outfit in France. Were any of these your direct superiors?
Yeah, he was a lieutenant colonel. He was the commander of our 2nd Battalion. At that time, I was with Company G and Company H.
When did you? So this is you, and with the marker.
Yeah.
When do you think this was?
That was before overseas. That was taken at Georgia.
Right. Was
Park
this
Mountain, Georgia.
this around the time you were training? Was this when you were in training then?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is when you were on furlough. And this would have been your sister's
My
husband?
husband, yeah.
Now, if you were on furlough in February of '44, was that before you had been over to Europe at all?
Yeah.
Then,
No, wait a minute.
so you would have
That
been.
date is wrong.
Date is wrong. So you don't think this was?
Huh?
So you think this was earlier than
Yeah.
that? Because when exactly would you have gone over to
I don't know.
Oran? Was that
I don't know for
the
sure.
very end of '43, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, and this is interesting because let's say here, Camp Dodge, Iowa, in '43.
That's where I went in.
And that was
Inducted.
But it says you were there for about like a 3-month span of time.
Hmm?
Didn't you do basic in Alabama, Mississippi?
No,
I
I'm
mean,
not
Mississippi.
there, yeah. See, Camp Dodge is in Iowa.
Right. So you wouldn't have been in Camp Dodge
No.
for 3 months, no. And then
We went to
Mississippi,
Camp Shelby.
where you would have done basic.
Yeah.
The album thinks you were there till April of '44. Do you think that makes sense?
I don't know. I don't think that's right.
It seems like you would have been over there already. So now, was this your...
This is when I got inducted into the
This
Army.
is the original one.
In order to go
Yeah.
for induction. It's when I went in the Army.
And this was your... Notice to appear for physical examination.
Yeah.
This was a while later in France. We hadn't talked about this
Yeah.
period yet. The Champagne campaign. So you guys had... This says you were at Fort Barbonnais.
Hmm?
This says that that these pictures were taken at Fort Barbonnais,
I don't remember.
someplace called Sospel in France.
Suspect, yeah.
So what's this wall that you're all sitting on with these mountains behind you?
Well, that's the way the fort all had a wall like that,
Yeah.
all around the mountain.
These all look almost like civilian clothes. Like these all look almost like civilian clothes. Like you're just
No,
sort
it's
of
all army clothes.
hanging around. This guy's got like a sweater vest almost.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, so this was part of the Maginot Line.
Hmm?
The fort was part of the
Yeah,
Maginot Line.
Maginot Line, French.
Hmm. Wow. So you were infantry, and you weren't anything more specific, like a mortarman or anything like that. Is this you at the badminton courts at the University of Florence?
Yeah, it was me.
Wow. Huh. So, who are the guys that you're in these pictures with?
I have no idea.
Would they have been in your company?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't even know who they are.
Well, I think they had some. I think they had some names here. Got Buster and George Okamoto, Lieutenant Okamura. You remember any of these guys?
Mm-mm.
Mitsuo Oka?
Mm-mm.
This says he was somebody else from... This says he was somebody else from Hawaii.
No,
Oka.
it's Corporal Mitsuo Oka. I don't know who he is.
You don't know. You don't know Kamen Suzuki either?
I can't remember me. I probably knew them at that time, but I can't remember them now.
How about these guys? I mean, we've seen them before, but...
I don't know.
Were these the kinds of tents that you guys were camping in on the campaign? I read that the guys in Italy used to rather sleep on rocks than ground because rocks might at least be dry. Is there any truth to that? Was there ever much cause to be? Was there ever a lot of cause to be in the dress uniform like this?
Was there any what?
Was there much cause when you were over there to be in the uniform like this?
No.
What do you think was going on a day that you wore it like that?
I have no idea.
It says ready to go out on pass.
On pass.
So that's what's going on in this picture. You guys are out in Naples. And this was a city that had, just been captured, in a matter of weeks before that, probably. Right? This is an interesting one because it says this is like shortly after the war ended, actually. And this one is even a little further later, September of 45. So that's, you were definitely still in camp in Italy at that time.
Naples.
This one says Buster is always in the picture. Not ring any bells for you?
Mm-mm.
What's this picture?
Boy Scout.
So this is you?
Yeah.
When you were a Boy Scout. So you were a Boy Scout in Hawaii. Now, I know that your wife told me that you were a medic during the war.
Hmm?
Your wife told me that you were a medic during the war. Was that something you had signed on for before you went over there, or was it a decision that you made after you got there?
No. I don't know how I got in there, but they thought I'd be a better medic than an infantryman.
So did you?
Because of biology, I suppose.
So did you start out as just a regular infantryman, and then
Yeah.
later you became a medic? Was that while you were still in Italy, or was it maybe not until you went to France?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you were still in Italy?
This is my high school diploma.
Really?
Yeah, Japanese school. Young Jews. June 7, 1941. I don't remember.
You mean you don't remember the graduation? Yeah. Now, since you were a medic in the war, do you think that influenced? Do you think that influenced your later career at all?
Yeah.
The experience with medicine and that.
I guess.
I mean, you had already been you had already been interested in biology before that.
Yeah.
And you'd probably been taking some of that in college too.
Yeah.
So you would have come back then after the war, and finished college, finished your major and all that. And this is when you would have met your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about that. How did you guys meet?
Well, she was at Simpson College
Right.
when I went back,
Yeah.
and I was a graduate assistant in biology, so she was a student under me
Yeah.
in one of the biology classes. So we got to know one another, and then I don't know how, but then we got married. That's after she graduated and I graduated.
Yeah.
Then we got married.
What was your first job after college? It was there in Iowa.
Yeah, it's at a hospital.
Yeah.
I was a biochemist and laboratory director. And it's a good-sized hospital, Carmel Valley. It's about a 1,000-bed hospital.
What's the name of the hospital again?
Carmel Valley.
Okay.
Conemaugh Valley Memorial Hospital.
And this was in
Johnstown.
which town? Oh, you're talking about Johnstown now.
Yeah.
You say on your sheet here that between 47 and 53, so this would have been after you finished college and after you finished being the graduate instructor there and everything. From 47 to 53, you were still in Iowa. You were in, I think the town is Iowata.
Huh? Well,
Right here.
Iowa City.
Oh,
I
Iowa
was
City.
there in college, yes. Then I went to Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. What did you do in Iowa City?
I was a student.
So this was when you were getting your master's?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was at University of Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I took my first job in Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I stayed there from 1953 to 1966. Then we went to Cumberland, Maryland, to another hospital there, and stayed there till 1973.
When you were in Iowa City, that would have been the time frame when Anne was born, right?
I don't know.
I think it is. I think she's
Yeah.
the age where she would have been
She
born
would
in
have
50
been,
or
yeah.
51. How do you think that her Japanese background has affected Anne? What do you think it's meant to her?
Didn't do anything. I never had a problem with that.
Well, it wouldn't. I'm not thinking of it as a problem necessarily. Just thinking, what would it mean to you to be growing up when she was, and to have
Nothing.
this sort of mixed Japanese and American history.
All I know is that I was different from all the rest of the people there. Being Oriental and being white. Aside from that, there weren't any animosity or anything between us.
Yeah.
Except for some smart-aleck guys.
You're talking now about when you were
In college.
in Iowa City, or when you were in Simpson?
Yeah. Both.
So you still had some smart Alex around in
Oh, yeah.
Iowa City. So you found this job in Johnstown, right? At the
Yeah.
hospital. At the hospital, being the lab director
Yeah,
at the
Johnstown.
hospital.
Conemaugh Valley.
Yeah. How did you find that job?
Well, they had added something, I forget what. So I applied for that position. And they called me in for an interview and asked me all kinds of questions. And I must have been the highest rated individual at that time. So when I was at the hospital, they didn't have a regular laboratory. In the hospital, that laboratory was there, but it wasn't organized at all.
Okay.
So when I got there, then I reorganized the whole laboratory, put different departments, hematology, chemistry, I forget what else. But I set up all different departments and had different people working there day and night.
So you really did a lot to reorganize the way they were doing things.
I made a completely modern laboratory when I got there. Moved in all new equipment, and I ran into a problem with the administration because they didn't want to put out that much money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can imagine it would be
after all,
kind of hard for them to
come in. You want everything all modernized, and just at that time, the most popular thing was 12-test instrument, automated. And I wanted to get this in the hospital, and they didn't want to undergo the cost of the hospital. And I showed them that if they don't get this, then we got to get 10 more technicians, to do the same job as this one instrument. So I finally convinced him. I had what I call a damn pathologist at that time, that he wasn't up to snuff. He wasn't up at the level of where he should have been.
Yeah.
So I brought them all up. So the hospital was really grateful for my being there and changing the laboratory. So I changed the whole works in the hospital. And they liked it very much.
I mean, you were there for 13 years, so you must have been fairly satisfied with how things went.
Yeah, they were really pleased. So they didn't want to see me leave. But this hospital in Cumberland, Maryland, offered me more money, and Johnstown couldn't meet the difference. So I took the job in Cumberland, Maryland. I mean, I think it amounted to $5,000 a year difference.
And that would be major.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to meet the difference in price. I said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go down there and build that laboratory up. Because that laboratory in Cumberland, Maryland was way behind, too. See, they were way back. Of course, they didn't have anybody there that knew all the modern tests and everything. So they were willing to pay me to build that laboratory up, so that in 1 year's time, then I brought them up to the level of all the Maryland State had, including the university. That they were all so surprised to see me come in there and reorganize the laboratory to a first-rate laboratory. So I got pretty much of a recognition there, and University of Maryland then gave me a professorship in biochemistry.
Oh, wow.
And I used to teach biochemistry there too, at the University of Maryland.
Wow. Even without the official PhD?
Because I had enough experience and knowledge of all that was going on in laboratory testing. I kept up with everything that was going on at that time.
Yeah.
And if anybody knew anything at all, I knew it just as much as the next guy.
Yeah.
So I kept up with all the latest. So they didn't have any worry about my taking over. So after I took over, then in Maryland, and we picked up two hospitals in West Virginia and another one in Maryland, where I went in there and changed the laboratory to a modern laboratory. And the test that they couldn't do over there, they just sent to me then.
So you sort of consulted for those other
yeah.
hospitals to figure things out for them. How was it to have to balance your regular lab director work with the professorship stuff?
Oh, it's pretty tough. Because I had to be at the University of Maryland Monday, Wednesday, Friday at, I forget what the hours were, but I had to be there at certain hours to teach. And back again to the hospital.
Yeah.
So I had a pretty busy schedule.
What did you think of teaching?
Huh?
Did you like teaching? Was it?
Yeah, I enjoy teaching. Because I knew at that time that nobody else knew as much as I did in biochemistry. Especially with all the latest tests. So I had no problem. Anytime I had any question, I had an answer for it. There weren't anything that I wasn't able to give them a satisfactory answer. So they were well pleased with that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And staff in all of these hospitals were grateful because I brought them up to a higher level.
Yeah.
And instead of not being able to get a test, I would get them. And if they heard of a test, they'd come and ask me what I thought about this test before it was incorporated. And I told them that, no, this is another test that was better than this one. So I'm going to incorporate this instead of that. And we got into arguments. And I told them, if you want to stay with this test, okay, we'll still do this test, but we'll have this as an option, which is better. And they finally all agreed to what I had set up. So they were well pleased with that.
Mm.
And they were glad that I stood up for my rights. Because some of those older hospital doctors that didn't want to make any change, you know, they wanted to stay the old-fashioned way. And I told them that, oh no, today you got to keep up with the best. And you can't be using all the old methods. So I'm changing all that, and I changed all of that. So they finally, gradually started getting around and ordering the test the way I wanted them to do it. Because every Friday we have a seminar, and I would discuss all the new laboratory tests to them and ask them that this is the test that they ought to use for this condition and so forth. So I used to bring them up to all the latest, and they were real happy with that. And of course, University of Maryland was also pleased with my teaching there.
What do you think the dates were when you were with the University of Maryland?
The what?
What do you think the specific years were that you were with the University of Maryland? Would that have been like 69 to 73, maybe?
The what?
What were the years when you were with the University of Maryland?
Oh, I don't remember.
You were in Maryland between 66 and 73.
Yeah.
And I'm figuring you might have been with the university up until you left Maryland?
I know there were so many changes made that I can't remember all of the changes. But all the changes that I made were all for the better. But I don't remember.
Well, you moved to Houston in '76, and that was, and that was partly to be closer to your daughter, and partly because you had this new job opportunity, right?
Yeah.
How did you find the LabCorp position? That would have been different from the hospital-centric stuff you'd been doing before. How did you settle on that?
Well, with LabCorp, there was the business to make money.
Yeah.
So, anytime I wanted to make any changes, I had to really prove that this is going to be worthwhile. So I had a tough time in introducing a new test even to the corporation. But I succeeded in all that. So they were thankful. They gave me a bonus every time some test was paying and make more money than what they did the previous quarter. See, they judge everything by a quarter.
Yeah.
And so I used to get incremental phases every quarter. Then as long as I kept getting that interest, I knew I was doing all right, and the corporation was happy with my being there.
Right. Was that a big leap in pay over what you had been doing in hospitals?
Yeah.
Was that part of why you picked that job?
Yeah.
Now that you've been in Houston longer than I think any other place that you've lived, how do you compare it to other places that you've lived? What are the things that have made Houston different from those other places?
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to move to Houston was because I had two daughters here. Then I figured, well, at least as a family we'll be closer together.
Yeah.
And I wasn't too concerned with the job because I knew I could build this laboratory up to what it should be. And I built it up to what it should be. And I took it easy from that point on. Then I retired. So the hospital and laboratory were grateful that I was there, and they still kept me on as a consultant, even after I retired. So that was a good job.
How long did you stay involved with consulting for them?
Oh, I don't know. Couple of years, more than that, I guess. 5 years at least.
Okay. What do you think makes Houston different from the Northeast, say? You spent a lot of time around Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey.
Yeah, well, it was hard to convince the doctors in Houston to keep up with the medicine in the East. I mean, they were that far behind. And I had a tough time convincing the older physicians in particular to accept the new methods. The younger physicians were all with me. They wanted to see progress. And they knew that my way would show them how a laboratory should be, so they agreed with me. And I stayed with them. The pathologist that was head of the whole works was an older gentleman, and the assistant pathologist was a young guy that was more up to date, but he didn't have enough power to change things.
Yeah.
Until I got there and I helped him make the changes. So we got along real well. We made the changes. Then finally the pathologist retired and he became head. Then things really changed. We made it to a completely modern laboratory. Bought new equipment. Hired more technicians.
And this all happened before you retired. So
Yeah.
you got to be part of the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Why do you think that Houston was slower to adopt the things that they were doing in the East?
I don't know. But I knew that they were up to the par level, let's say from any other bigger laboratory. Then once I brought them up to the same level, then they didn't have any qualms at all. They knew that they could be compared with any other hospital.
Yeah.
So they were real pleased.
Do you think that part of the issue was what you were saying before about how it was for profit, and it was that much harder for you to justify every new expense?
Yeah.
I think that was part of why they were slower.
I had to really fight to make changes. And a lot of the older physicians in particular didn't want to spend the money.
Yeah.
They were so money conscious, but I showed them that money-wise, if they went my way, that we could make more money than what they were making now.
Yeah.
Then finally, they agreed, and we went on with the new way. Then they used to come and say, "Boy, we didn't know how you knew that this was going to come out the way it did, you know." I said, "Well, it just makes sense because it's working this way in every other part of the country. So it's got to work out." And I guess they finally agreed, and they went along with all the changes. But I had a tough time making that.
Yeah.
Yes. Some of those guys were really hard-headed. I couldn't fight them because they had the position. I didn't.
Right.
I just kept on anyhow. And finally got my leg hit and worked my way up. Then they became grateful that I stuck out with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of them then, when they retired, came out to me and said, how grateful they were for my being there, because a lot of them have changed their minds about the way they were practicing medicine. And I said, well, you just got to keep up with the time.
It must have felt good to know that you'd influenced people to think differently about it.
Yeah. The older the administration, it was really tough. So when I went for a new job and I went to the administration, I wanted to see who the boss was and how long he was there and when he was going to retire. Because I knew that was going to make a lot of difference in my position.
Yeah.
And most of the time I guessed right when I made the change in jobs.
Yeah. Was that something that you had known you needed to look for back when you were finding the job in Johnstown?
Yeah.
So that was a hospital where you looked at them and you thought, yeah, you know, I can work with them and they can work with me.
Yeah. I looked at the hospital and knew that they were so way behind that it's going to be a hell of a job to bring them up to par. You know, because the biggest part is the expense of going into my laboratory for what it is there.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I had to proceed slowly, one step at a time, instead of making a direct change. I wanted to make a direct change, but I couldn't. I had to go step by step by step by step, which I think they finally realized that, look, I was here to help them, not to, you know, keep them down. Then they finally dawned on them what I was trying to do, so they were all in favor of my actions and activities. So after that, I didn't have any problem at all.
Yeah. Have you seen the environment in science and in, you know, working in medicine? Have you seen the environment of working in medicine change over your life for Asian Americans specifically?
Yeah. So, of course, I didn't know of any other Asian chemists, you know, or laboratory director. I knew some pathologists, but there weren't very many.
So you saw that change over the course of your career then?
Yeah.
Did you ever see a role for formal or informal professional networks between Asian Americans or anything like that?
No.
Do you think any of that ever happened where people found jobs based on like people who they knew and
No.
things like that?
I think they were pretty good about that, where they judged the individual by his qualifications more than anything
I mean,
else.
I'm not saying that, you know, people were like sneaking in under false pretenses or something. It was just,
That's right.
just wondering if there were connections like that you'd seen in work.
Yeah, as long as you're qualified, you were secure in your position. I mean, I never felt insecure wherever I was,
Sure.
as far as job goes.
Hmm.
I could stand up and fight anybody for my position and why I was there and how I wanted to keep it going. So I had no problem at all once I got established.
What do you think you would tell an Asian American scientist or chemist who was starting out today?
Oh, I think he has just as much, or just as easy a time as anybody else
Sure.
if he is qualified. I mean, the individual must be qualified if he's going to go up against anybody for competition or for a job.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be a mediocre guy. You got to prove that you're better than the next guy.
Yeah. Seems like you never had much of a problem doing that.
No.
I wanted to take a minute to talk about your Bronze Star. What did you win it for?
Huh?
How were you awarded the
Oh, I don't know.
star?
For doing something.
Is there a
Why,
citation in
I
there?
don't- It's about that. See? I have 2 Bronze Stars.
2.
Yeah. For what? I don't know.
Did you ever get a citation associated with them, like a certificate to
Yeah, something.
say anything about that? That might be in here, actually.
No.
You don't think so? I think we may as well take a look. And that's what's the other medal that's in there? The European Theater?
No, it's American Defense.
Okay.
This is a European theater.
Oh,
And this is a good conduct medal. And these are the Purple Hearts. I've got the medal is in here, but it's just I got a medal someplace, I don't know where, but
my grandpa was
where?
he was a radio operator on a C-47 in North Africa.
Yeah.
He never saw near as much action as you did. And I guess he was fortunate.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I don't know where.
These are amazing. Junior police. You were captain of junior police when you were in high school.
What?
It looks like you were helping out at the police department.
Huh.
Something like that.
I don't remember
Huh.
that.
You got the Boy Scouts. Something written on the back, actually.
Prepared to us for our service. What the hell did you do?
Well, this was the rescue of the Lost Battalion, I believe.
For the excellent fight for rescue after minutes later, something. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are both very similar looking pages. And the next one too. What do these have in common?
Same thing. It's my Japanese high school diploma.
There's like many sheets involved.
City. Well, I don't know.
Oh, there's a whole ton of them. I think that's the whole rest of the scrapbook. In fact, is except for at the very end when we saw that.
See, this goes to 1933.
So there was a new certificate for every year you finished, probably.
And this is 1934.
There you go.
That's 37.
So they're not quite all there, not quite all in order.
39.
Alright. I think this is the one you said is from when you graduated in 40.
41, yeah.
41.
1941.
Alright. There we go. Oh no medal citations, but there's that.
I don't know what the citations are. There's someplace in the records. I don't know where they are, but
They might even actually be in here.
no.
There were a couple of other things in this envelope. This is something your wife prepared for us to look over for the archive and whether or not we wanted to add any of these things to it.
Let me see.
This is all from just last year, I think. A reunion of the 442nd with the 141st. That's different, I guess.
The Lost Battalion.
Yeah.
I don't know what good this is.
What?
I said, I don't know what good this is. Why did they give me this?
In recognition of what your unit did, as far as I understand.
For the voice.
Hmm. Well, I think I've covered all the questions I really wanted to get to.